Hey guys, welcome to Social Distance Learning. I'm your host, Raj Gatecha. This is a brand new podcast that I've put together for everybody who is social distancing and for everybody who's distance learning. I'm the CEO of the Creative Content Agency. We've had this business since 2015 and we've produced social media and mobile content for some of the best brands in the world, collaborated with some incredible people, and we specialize in B2B and personal brands. So in this podcast, we really have three components. The first component is what I call horse to water, which is just a piece of advice where I'm leading a horse to water and I'm saying, yo, this is something you should be doing right now from our area of expertise, which is making content and navigating the business world. You're going to get a lot of really good advice in that. So make sure you kind of take notes if you can, because it's exactly what we're telling our clients at this time. And also this podcast will be going to all of our clients so that they get our positions on a number of different things as an agency. And then the second part, we're going to have a check-in with somebody. It'll always be a different executive or a different artist. It's somewhere else in a different part of the world that's focused on a different industry or sector. In today's episode, it's the CEO of Rocaba Group, which is Sujan Shah, my dear friend. He runs the biggest packaging website in the UK called carrierbagsshop.co.uk. His business is very much tied to the UK economy and retail and e-commerce. So you're going to hear a very full, frank conversation from him. And then the third part of this interview is called the care package, where I just leave you with something to check out, whether it be another piece of content or an activity that you can be doing between episodes that will hopefully improve your life in some sort of way. So that is social distance learning. I really hope you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. It feels quite weird to be in front of the camera after so many years, because as you know, as a producer and an agency owner, I spend a lot more time behind the camera, but I hope you find this useful and enjoy the rest of the show. So today's episode is called Dream of Coronafication. So Coronafication is a term that I've coined, which is how do you find a home for Corona inside your existing content? We all have to kind of adjust what we do right now to address this 7 million ton elephant in the room, which is the coronavirus, which is affecting so many different aspects of like life and business. And so as a business, you might be asking yourself, how do I talk about Corona while still communicating what I need to communicate on behalf of my business or my personal brand, and still landing in a way that's kind of like relevant and serves my audience? And so I'm going to give you 3 tips as how to do it, and then 3 red flags that I've seen in the market of people doing it, completely wrong, and my observations and what I've gleaned in both cases. So number 1, of course, there's no rules. It's this coronavirus and the subject continues to be a moving target, but you, as a result of having no rules, now also have no excuses. You can put out lower quality content. There's a lot more established content creators right now that are putting out content on Zoom and Skype. They're using their mobile phones at home because they haven't got the normal cameras that they would normally have out and about or in their offices. You don't need to worry about having world-class microphones. You just have to get the content out there and make sure that in any which way that you can, you serve your community. Give as generously as you possibly can. There are people that would have started making content in your industry many months ago, many years ago, and got a head start on you. Now is the ultimate time to play catch up. If you're a restaurant, yes, give those recipes away, but also interview everybody you can inside the organization. Even if they record it with their own phones and they kind of WeTransfer it or Dropbox it over to you and you find a home for it on your social media. Are the waiters and waitresses and servers from the native country where the cuisine comes from? Do you want to talk a little bit more about the dishes that you're working on for when the restaurant does come back online? Are you able to promote things that you can continue to generate revenue from, like delivery or home assembly kits? It's a time to give away as much as you possibly can. And I think when your audience sees you doing that and they see that you're taking time out from all the other real stuff that you're dealing with, payroll, rent, all sorts of other big issues, they're going to really appreciate the fact that you're also taking time out to make content. Number 2, match the tone of your followers. Really think about your customer and what they're going through. And I can tell you this, as the days, weeks, and months go on, the coronavirus continues to coil itself around individual members of society in a much more devastating way. Like I would say that 2-3 weeks ago, the coronavirus was just something I was learning about and consuming online. And of course, I understood it was extremely serious. But as in the last 7 to 10 days, I know people that have lost their parents to it. I know other people that have died of natural causes, but have not had anybody by their bedside because of the strain placed on hospitals in the UK, in this case, where they couldn't say farewell to their loved ones. And so coronavirus goes from a light topic that you see at arm's length to something that's becoming more serious and more meaningful. And I also think that's also ripped out the opportunity to lean on any humor. It just is no longer funny. I think before it landed on everybody's shores worldwide, memes and stuff like that were things that even brands would put out about the coronavirus. But I would make sure that you get the tone right. And hey, listen, personal brands like celebrities and influencers, if you happen to have a massive garden and a swimming pool and you've turned the whole backyard into a gym and people are sending you freebies, snacks and gym equipment and things like that, all right, cool. There are some people that are going to enjoy that as a form of escapism, but I think the majority of people, especially as the impact of coronavirus gets more and more serious, they might see that as a bit tone deaf, because that's not most people's reality. So again, it depends on how you choose to build empathy with your audience. But like, I just feel like some people are so distanced, and celebrities are kind of like talking about how they're coping with, quarantine in their massive houses, or trying to, just get by with the basic gym equipment they've got in their homes. I find that a bit tone deaf. I've advised my clients not to do anything like that. And then number 3, B2B folks, create some industry dialogue. There's never been a better time to get your suppliers on a call and put that out as a podcast, your customers, to talk about their experiences, how their needs have changed. And even if you want at this stage, get your competition, make content, collaborate with your competition, because there are going to be people across the industry that will really appreciate that dialogue. And it doesn't mean it's appropriate in all cases. I don't imagine that Coke and Pepsi will put a podcast out together, but like in your industry, if you're in an industry where this kind of camaraderie is valued at this point, then that would be a really good way to do it. So point number 1, no more excuses, give as generously as you can. Point number 2, match the tone of your followers. And point number 3, create some industry dialogue. And remember, the industry dialogue as well, even if the audience that's consuming it are your normal consumers and your normal customers, there will be trickle down knowledge that will benefit them, and they will also help them understand what you're going through as well. Okay, let's get into 3 points that I think I've seen that are really dumb. One is, I've seen a lot of content creators that are signaling to the market that whatever it is that they're offering, whether it's content or products or services, could in some way be interpreted as a direct solution for the issue that we're going through at the moment. So, please don't lean into any kind of messaging or signaling that suggests that you have something that will help somebody actually hack this pandemic, right? So like, I've seen a lot of people make content like how to grow your business during a pandemic, 10 tips to increase your sales whilst all your prospects are working from home, all this like real corny stuff. And like I said, every single day there are governments that are making announcements about, timelines, when things will come online, when they won't come online. At the moment, we're in the thick of basically what appears to be a lockdown for the majority of the planet. And so if some like fly-by-night consultant is coming along saying that they've got the answer for all this, I would be very dubious. That's a big red flag for me. Number 2, don't pander to beliefs that you can't own. The news cycle is very rapid at the moment. There's lots of information coming out, and you've got to be careful as to what it is that you talk about in your content and what you appear to be kind of endorsing, because what you don't want is for your perspective to expire. There's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of things that you can say on camera right now that don't age very well. And so just be careful that you're not just like riding trends and trendy conversations in and around the coronavirus at the moment, because it might not fare well for you. So be a little bit selective. And that moves me on to point 3, which is that be very conscious of the quality of advice that you give out. Now, how do I interpret the quality of advice that people give out? Like, I see a lot of people being like, stay positive. In the last recession, Uber was created and Airbnb was created. And I'm like, man, if you look at those businesses right now, they're really going through it. I don't know if they should be the poster child of successes. You wouldn't need to Google very far to see that those businesses are way overexposed at the moment, especially when it comes to like, looking after their employees and the amount of contractors they've got. And again, this comes down to tone. Like, the reality of the matter is, like, have we all benefited in some way from Uber and Airbnb? Most middle-class people have. They might have saved a couple of $100 on a trip to Madrid by using an Airbnb instead of booking a 4-star hotel, or they may have ridden Uber and had a really great experience that at sometimes may have even been cheaper than a normal taxi. But the reality is, the real true benefactors of those businesses are a small limited number of people that have generated a ton of wealth. And and the employees, right? So not just the founders and the investors, but like if your email ends at uber.com, yeah, you probably did pretty good as a result of that. It's a pretty remarkable company. But to say that something positive happened in the last recession when you're talking to a general population that didn't really benefit from it, I think that's a little bit short-sighted. And of course, there were lots of great things that happened in the last recession, or that came out the other side of it, I guess, in terms of like, the rise of social networks and Instagram and things of that nature. But that was also pegged to the fact that there was like smartphone adoption and other things like that. It wasn't the recession necessarily that birthed it in all those cases. So these are the three things that I would say to avoid. One, don't lean directly into any kind of communication that claims to solve or appears to be exploitive of the whole situation that we're in at the moment. You will come across like a profiteer. You'll look like somebody who is hoarding plastic gloves and masks and hand disinfectant. Like, don't come across like a scumbag. Number two, don't pander to beliefs that you can't own. And number three, be very wary of the quality of the advice that you give. What I would recommend on that point as well, regarding the quality of advice that you give, is it's okay to come out and say, hey, listen, has your organization changed? Have you got people working from home more? Well, we've been working from home as an organization for the last 2-3 years. Here's some things that we learned along the way that we'd be happy to share with you. We're speaking from a point of first-hand experience and contextual advice. I think that would be something quite good. And as a general rule, when people come out and claim to be advisors or consultants or subject matter experts, the thing that I mostly look for in most instances is, well, where's your evidence? Where's your stripes? Where's your big hits? If you've not got any, then you're just another hypothetical coach that doesn't really have anything to back up what they're saying. And so that's the reason why I make point 3, which is that be wary of the quality of the advice that you give. So that's it for Dream of Coronafication. I hope you learned something from it. Like I said, this is a one-way conversation, but it's very much like the conversations that I'm having with my clients at the moment. And at this stage in the coronavirus, a lot of people are wondering, how do they find a home in their content for this subject matter? So I hope you found it useful. On to the next section, where you're going to be hearing from Sujan Shah, the CEO of Rocaba Group, good friend of mine, collaborator on a few projects. And he's also running one of the biggest businesses in the UK for packaging, online packaging. It's called carrierbagsshop.co.uk. A lot of their customers are brands and in retail. Those sectors are highly affected at the moment. His business has been highly effective. One reason why I made him guest number 1 is that he's always been super honest and transparent. And so you're going to get a real look behind the curtain of his business and hear a little bit more about what he's going through. He's the CEO. The industry is packaging and the country is the UK. Enjoy the conversation. Sujan Shah, welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Listen, you were telling me I'm guest number 1, and that for me is like privilege. Oh, right, but to be guest number 1, I'm like, yes.
Well, I think it's appropriate, because if there's one part of the industry that's been affected by everything that's going on, it's retail and food and beverage, and that's a place where there are parts of the industry that you've been serving for quite some time. So, for those not familiar, just give us a quick overview of your core business, the businesses that you've got peppered around that within your group, and a little bit of stuff that you're doing on the content side as well.
Yeah, no worries. So in 2005, I started an e-commerce packaging company. So we focus primarily around carrier bags, tissue paper, like retail packaging for stores around the UK. And that's grown over the last 15 years. We've serviced over 100,000 UK retailers with their packaging. We've also opened up an office in Germany and in Ireland and in France just literally a couple of months ago as well. So we're now Europe-wide in terms of what we're doing with e-commerce packaging. Off the back of that, our skill set's selling stuff online. It's all e-commerce, whether it be packaging or something else. So we also launched a digital agency to help other people do what we do, which is in the e-commerce space. But I've been involved in the online dating subscription space as well. I've got a very successful sports podcast and other stuff as well. But my main focus is retail packaging.
And the sports podcast that you've had is around fantasy football, right? And that's over.
Correct.
Downloads.
Yeah. And we've had 1 million lifetime downloads in just over 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years. Yeah.
Congratulations. And for those people that have been following me for some years as well, you'll recognize Sujan, because this is the co-founder of Vayner World. So those guys who know that I've launched a couple of books with Gary Vaynerchuk may not know that Sujan was the 50-50 partner behind that one. And really
Mhm.
a great force in that. And we had some amazing progress with that in 2013 and 2016. So that's Sujan Shah. So, I mean, obviously I'm in Dubai, you're in the UK. Maybe we could just start at a kind of bird's eye view and then zoom down. What's it like in the UK, and what's it like as a business owner? If you could talk to us a little bit about some of the decisions you're making, how you're interpreting some of the fiscal and stimulus policies that the government are rolling out.
Yeah, no worries, man. So we're quite a civilized society in the UK. I would say, like everybody, if people put rules out, the government say, you're on lockdown, don't go out. Everybody follows them. If the government are putting measures in place to help fight coronavirus, we're not very suspicious. Like we don't, we're not looking to find the problems in the government strategy or what have you, which you might find in the likes of America or what have you. So things are pretty calm. I wouldn't say they're obviously very good. Like we've got over 6,000 deaths now and what have you. But it's been very well managed, in my opinion, from a government point of view. A lot of people are working from home, and it's now a real realization on how the world is going to change moving forward. Just a lot of simple things like we don't need to travel as much as we have been in the past, right? I've spent no money this month, like nothing. And I'm just like, what did I always spend all my money on before that was just hemorrhaging out of my bank account? And now, other than food from the supermarket, I'm spending money on nothing. So it's like, you know what, I could live a very different life based on that. In terms of from a business point of view, I ask myself three questions every day when I go into work, because I'm still having to work at the moment, and things have really scaled back by about 60%. So we're 60% down year on year on where we'd expect to be.
Wow.
I'm asking myself, so have we hit the bottom? How long will the bottom last for? And how quick will the recovery be? And I can't answer those questions right now, right? So if you're planning for the future, you need some kind of level of trends to follow that gives you any indication of where this is going and how quickly we're going to get out of it. So to give you an idea of what the government have done, they're paying wages for a lot of staff, which is a great policy, whether you're self-employed or on payroll. They're backing banks to lend money to businesses. There's grants that are going out to every company within the country. They're rolling out a lot of stuff. And I reckon they've hit 85 to 90% of the population with something positive. You're never going to get to 100%, right? You can't please all the people all the time. But for me to go, the one thing that I don't know right now is where the bottom is, and then how quickly we're going to come out of this. What we do know is the longer we are in this kind of lockdown situation, the harder it's going to be to come out the other side. But the government are backing loans. Like if the bank want to lend money, the government are going to back it with security, right? So I can go to the bank now and say, I need to borrow money for my business. But they're asking me questions like how much and how long for. I'm like, all right, you tell me how long this lockdown is for. You're going to recover, and I'll tell you how much money I need. I don't know right now. So that uncertainty is the biggest problem that we have right now.
And in the near term, has obviously you supply a ton of packaging to retail and F&B. How quick has that market downturn been? Can you give us an indication of what that market downturn is like in real term? And I mean, obviously you don't have to give away any confidential numbers, but just so that the audience can get an idea of the scale as to how much the retail and physical retail environment has been impacted in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and let me give you some numbers that might give you some kind of indication, right? So as a business, because we've been established over 15 years, 70% of what we did was repeat customers, and 30% every year was new business, right? We've got such a pool of thousands of customers. Year on year right now, our repeat business is less than half. It's about 30% of where it would be. So the existing retailers that are out there, we're looking at about 35% are still buying packaging. On the flip side, new business, some days we're at 150% year on year for a number of reasons. Other people have shut down or are not physically open, and we are still operational. People are out there looking for deals, so they'll shop around a little bit more and stumble across us. And all of the business that we're doing right now is in the food, the disposable food takeaway space. Food banks and councils are really busy right now in terms of giving aid to people. And then the healthcare space, so the NHS needs certain products and certain packaging for things. So I mean, we're solely and exclusively 90% of the business we're doing is in those kind of three key areas right now: food, kind of government and council, and then healthcare. But the retail space is like a third of where it was, and the reason being the majority of these places are closed. They're just not opening their doors.
And when we look at like some of the consumer trends, I was interviewed recently by the English Business Council, and they asked me to kind of summarize at different times in the interview where we might be right now. And I felt like that coronavirus has been like a great accelerator in society. It's moved us forward 5 years in terms of our approach to working from home, wellness, even everything down to, human contact and what we regard as a priority. So, do you need to necessarily buy a £50 t-shirt when you can buy a £15 t-shirt? So I think there's been plenty of discussion already about consumer trends, consumer behavior. Within your business, just give us an indication of how many people work for you. And what I'd be really keen to find out is, what are some of the one-way streets that your business is facing? What are some of the things that you're doing now that you feel will become permanent? And how has your company kind of leapt into its future as a result of some of the changes you've had to make?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we've only really been in this kind of remote working scenario for about 3 weeks. Like the end of this week will be 3 weeks, and quite a few of the staff are furloughed. So meaning they don't have to work right now. They're working from home. They're at home, but they're not working, if you know what I mean. I don't think we've been remote working for long enough yet for people to actually say, you know what, I like this working from home. Because the first week is happy days, right? The second week, you're like, actually, you know what, I crave a little bit of attention. The third week, I'm stuck at home on my own now. I don't think I could do this forever. And I have noticed that from a few people that are like, actually, you know what, I want to come back to the office. We're doing full staff Zooms every week, like 20, 25 people jumping on a Zoom call just to keep in touch with everybody. I give everybody a 10, 15-minute update on the business, where we're at, what to expect in the next 4 weeks. Everyone's people worried about their jobs and stuff like that, right? But then it just breaks into everybody just wants to chat to each other because they miss each other, because they haven't seen each other. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. In this scenario, 100%. It's like when we were all in the same office, we'd annoy each other and people would, you get your office politics and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, everybody misses each other in a way that you don't realize until you actually are torn apart.
So could it be a case of you don't know what you've got till it's gone?
100%. 100%. I think people will crave it. So I don't think we'll go to this full remote working, but I think the flexibility for 1 or 2 days, for sure.
So I don't want to create any anxiety.
I want a hybrid model. I think a 60-40 or 70-30 hybrid model will be the way forward.
Yes, I don't want to bring forward any concerns ahead of time, but obviously I've spent time in your business. So like there's certain stuff which is better done intimately and is better done person to person, face to face, eye to eye, body language and all that kind of stuff. And of course, remote working has a tremendous amount of benefits. But then when you look at the priority stack of what can be done remotely and what can't, over a course of a quarter or 2 quarters, there are certain things that do require in-person communication, especially as a business.
100%.
How do you think, have you thought about that? Or is that something you might start thinking about as the weeks go on?
Yeah, for sure. Like, okay, if we think about the different types of communication, I would say that as an organization, historically, we've been fairly good at communicating with the team. And more recently, in the last 12 months, we've been particularly bad. And I'll give you a few examples, right? So email updates. I could send a blanket email around to all of the staff with this. You know what they say, I think is 87% of communication is body language and the rest is like lost, right? Without fail, if I send a blanket email around to everybody, someone's back will get up because I'll have said something in a way that they'll feel like he's talking about me or something along those lines, right? So I'm not a big fan of that. So email updates are best short, sweet, and simple. Like it's worth having discussions about finances or strategy or anything like that. Short and simple. This week is Easter. Everybody's going to get Easter egg as a simple example or something like that. Pancake day, pancakes. That's cool with email and a digital format. With the Zooms, let me give you an example with the Zooms. 20 people on a Zoom. I give a 15-minute update, and then I'll leave the forum open. Who's got any questions? We've done 3 of these now. I've not had a single question at the end of these 15-minute Zooms.
Wow.
Whereas historically, we've done quarterly town hall meetings. You've probably been present at a couple in the past, right? I'll send an around or do a kind of 20, 30-minute presentation. We'll bring in some other people from senior management to talk about their different areas to the rest of the team. There's always questions in a town hall environment, and people feel very different when they're in the same room. So I'm much more bigger, strategic kind of conversations. Let's get people in the same room. Smaller, bite-sized, touch-sized stuff. Sure, that can happen over email.
Well, thanks for that, Sujan. I think for us, we are obviously, as you mentioned, you are guest number one. I'm very grateful. I can't think of anybody else who I'd rather have as guest number one, and I'm really grateful and appreciative. And I think that if we do take a longer term view of this, we may be in a kind of corona tackling environment in business for quite some time, and so it might be worth as well checking in with you again in a little while just to see how you approach and how you've evolved as a business leader. So thanks so much for joining us on the show.
No worries, man. Can I leave you with one last comment and one idea that's kind of really come to me with this coronavirus situation, right?
Yes.
Which is very specific for the UK. So, for other countries too, but the UK government are paying 80% of people's salaries for a 12-week period. They don't have to work during that 12-week period, but they're still picking up 80% of their salaries. And I was chatting to somebody the other day. Very rarely this late in some people's careers in their 40s, 50s, 60s, will you get the opportunity to take a 12-week sabbatical and get 80% of your salary and the opportunity to better yourself. So there's quite a lot of online training courses, the likes of Udemy and what have you, that have just opened up for free for the whole month. So we've launched an internal competition within work now, where when we come back, everybody gets the chance to pitch for 3 minutes what they did during furlough to be better, what they did during coronavirus to better themselves, learn a new skill, speak another language, learn to code, build a website, teach your kids something, whatever it is. Use this time to be better, like use that opportunity, and especially the free resources out there. And it's going to be a peer-to-peer voting system. So whoever comes back and pitches to the rest of the guys, this is how I use my time during coronavirus. You can get it's cash and what have you. But I just really feel like this is the time, with all the free resource out there, that people will be able to better themselves and have more free time than they've ever had. And it does make it a real opportunity.
Well, we'd love to get an update on that, especially as it rolls out. I think it sounds like a great idea, and we'd love to hear, of your team, how many action that and what the impact is on the bottom line. So thank you so much again, Sujan Shah, CEO of Rocaba Group and co-host of Planet FPL. Congratulations on that show, passing 1 million downloads as well. If anybody's into soccer, Planet FPL is the podcast. Thanks so much, Sujan.
My pleasure, man.
So I hope you enjoyed that chat with Sujan. I'm so glad to have him on. And if there's any questions you've got, as you saw on the video, if you saw the video, I guess if you didn't, if you're listening to the audio podcast, then the best way to contact him is at Sujan Shah on Instagram. Here we go into the final section right now, which is the care package. And in this care package, I try and make a suggestion that I hope will in some which way benefit you and help you navigate these difficult waters. My challenge, I guess, for this care package is now might be a good time to declutter your social media. The first few weeks, especially for me staying at home, was just like, I just cleaned everything until I couldn't clean it anymore. I did laundry of anything that looked like a fabric inside the house. And you do spend this time like getting on top of things. You know, a lot of people are going through this, like if I had more time, I would do this. And people have had that time now to get on top of things. But what I would do if I were you is maybe flick through your social media and see if there's any people that you follow that you can cull. Because if you were following accounts that didn't really serve you during the good times, then during these more challenging times, then those things will really not serve you. So let's just stick with Instagram as an example. It's a place where it's very easy to, just passively pick people up and follow them over a period of months and years. And we've all been there before, where we've seen an account, we've seen a post in our feed, and we'll be like, man, do I even follow this person? When do I even follow them? Now's a good time to go through and remove some of those people. It's better for the algorithm in terms of what content Instagram or any of the social networks will suggest to you. But it's also good for your mental headspace as well, because what you consume right now, content-wise, is really important. And I'm going to do a whole separate podcast on the content diet. But that's what I would suggest. Now, how many people do you remove? Well, it's really up to you. It can be a arbitrary percentage. It could be 5% of the people that you're following. Just go to people you follow and figure out what 5%, 10% of that is. Get rid of them. It could also be 50 people, 100 people, whatever you decide. And if you can't figure out, or you don't want to set yourself like a number like that, then maybe if you are the kind of person that checks social media after every meal or whatever, just whatever you're doing it, whenever you're doing it in the house, maybe 3 times a day, just try and get rid of one person that you're following that truly isn't serving you or truly isn't forward facing and helping you get out of this situation. I say it because I want to suggest ways to protect your headspace, protect some of the noise, and also as well put you in a situation whereby you come out of this in a much better place. So that would be my suggestion for the care package. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. For those of you who've decided to tune in on YouTube, I really appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. Any kind of engagement is great because it allows us to get discovered more. For those listening audio only, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. On the show Social Distance Learning, leave me a comment on iTunes. If it's Spotify, share it with another user. I'd be really grateful. Grab the URL, fling it over to somebody on WhatsApp. And I've not quite decided if I'm going to put this whole video on Facebook, but if I do, then leave a comment below and suggest that somebody check it out. I'd really appreciate that. Until next time, I will see you on the next episode.